So aside from the provisions that we have mentioned last time, if I am not mistaken, there are still other prohibited measures mentioned by the Constitution that cannot be done by Congress. Like for example, if a law that would impair the doctrine of separation of powers, or a law that will what? That will be a violation against it's considered an ex post facto law. So we know that. So like for example, slight physical injury, the penalty is 1 month imprisonment. Supposing Congress enacts a law, making the penalty, increasing the penalty, making it 6 years. The question now is it an ex post facto law? So the penalty is 30 days before Congress enacts a law making it 6 years. So is that an ex post facto law? Yes or no? Yes, raise your hand. Who says yes? Raise your hand. Who says no? Raise your hand. Is this an ex post facto law? The reference or the determination is not the penalty imposed. Take note. The determination is the application of the law. Even if the penalty is so high and may violate some other provisions, like for example, right to due process of law, specifically substantive due process of law. Okay? But the same is never an ex post facto law, especially if the same is applied prospectively. It will only be considered an ex post facto law if the application is retroactive. Because class, we will be discussing ex post facto law, and I think there are certain elements that should be met before we could say that it's an ex post facto law. Like for example, ang asawa niya, may asawa yan, ang ex post facto law. Anong asawa niya? Asawa. Ang asawa niya is non-impairment clause. Bakit po sir nasabing asawa? Because ex post facto law refers to criminal matter. Non-impairment clause refers to civil matter. Pero ang common denominator nila is what? They are made to apply retroactively. Pero the question now is, if you will be applying it retroactively, would that immediately be considered an ex post facto law? Yes or no? Again, we have another element. Ano yun? Criminal in nature. Ano pa? It is made to apply retroactively. And thirdly, it prejudices the what? It prejudices the accused or the respondent. So if the law is made to apply retroactively, but it does not in any way prejudice, as in fact, will benefit the accused, that is not an ex post facto law despite retroactivity. Right? Because I understand that you have already studied that in your criminal law. Di ba? Basing from what I know, as a bystander in criminal law, a law can be made to apply retroactively. The characteristic of a penal law is prospective. Diba? Except if what? It may be applied retroactively if it is beneficial to the accused. Except, sabi ko nakararamin do yan, except if the accused is a habitual delinquent or a recidivist or the law itself expressly provides that it cannot be made to apply retroactively. Take note. No? So, hindi po yan pwede. Hindi po yan pwede, yung ex post facto law. What else? Laws that will also impair the obligation of contract cannot also be done by the legislative department. Okay? So I think last time we are through with title of bill. Every bill passed by Congress shall embrace only one subject which shall express in the title thereof. The exception is what? The exception is the case of Tobias versus Avalos. Okay? Because there are still other subjects, di ba? But the other subjects are so much germane to the main subject expressed in the title. Like for example, what? In the case of Tobias, the main subject there is the conversion of municipality of Mandaluyong into a highly urbanized city of Mandaluyong. That's the main subject. But there are also other subjects. Ano yung other subject? Creation of a legislative district. But is the creation of a legislative district germane to that main subject? Yes or no? Yes. Okay? Because as in fact, according to your classmate last time, it's a necessary consequence, di ba? Of what? Of the conversion into a highly urbanized city. So since it is germane to the main subject, even if the same is not included in the title, that is still considered not a violation of the constitutional provision. So what is the purpose really why this is provided by the Constitution? In order to avoid uncertainties, in order to avoid confusion, or to mislead the people. Not only the people, but also the legislators. And also, this allows yung log rolling legislation. I think if I am not mistaken, that can be found in your book, Purposes Why This Constitutional Provision is Provided. We also have what? We also have this what's so-called doctrine of inappropriate provision found in the case of Vilconta versus Jimenez. And also a rider. What is a rider? If I am not mistaken, last year, there was a question in the bar examination that speaks of rider. Last year, multiple choice. So what is actually a rider? A rider is an additional clause or provision annexed or attached to the bill which in the course of passage while in the course of passage, in order to what? In order to slip it through. Yeah. So this is actually what? This is actually an unrelated provision. Tig-attach lang doon sa Tig-attach lang doon sa bill. Can that be removed? Yes or no? That can be removed by the President. Yes or no? We'll try to find out later because that is also considered a what? An inappropriate provision. Say for example, an appropriation bill or general appropriation law, and you can find a provision there providing for what? For increase of the retirement benefits of what? Of members of the military. Do you think this is related to the appropriation law? Yes or no? No. So we call that as what? Inappropriate provision. Can the President exercise his veto power in order to remove that inappropriate provision? We will try to find out later on. But I want you to read the case of what? Vilconta versus Jimenez. Let's proceed. No bill, according to Article 6, Section 26, number 2, no bill passed by either house shall become a law unless it has passed 3 readings on separate days, and printed copies thereof in final form have been distributed to its members 3 days before its passage. I would like to emphasize, class, this is a constitutional requirement. Take note. Can this be relaxed? As a general rule, this cannot be relaxed. This has to be complied with because it's the Constitution itself that requires for it. Yeah? So, 3 readings, and these 3 readings should be done on what? On separate days. And before the third and final reading, or 3 days before the third and final reading, in every house, di ba? Final copy of the bill should be distributed to all the members of the house. Okay? Would that be okay that the final draft be distributed? Yes or no? Yes. Because sabi nga last time, because anyway, during the third and final reading, what members of Congress will do is just to vote. There will be no more amendments, there will be no more revision, there will be no more modification in the tenor of the bill. But do we have exceptions? Yes. Especially when the President issues a certification that the passage of this measure is so urgent. Okay? This is one of the instances, class, where the President is allowed to actively participate in the legislative process without violating the principle of separation of powers. The question now is, at what stage may the President do this? Or in what stage may the President do this? Supposing it has already undergone 3 readings in the House of Representatives, is now in the Senate. Can the President still issue a presidential certification that this bill has to be immediately enacted? Yes or no? Or supposing nasimula pa lang po yung nasimula pa lang po yung bill, can the President issue a certification? Yes or no? The President may certify to the urgency of the measure at any time. Take note, at any time or at any stage of the what? Of the passage of the bill. Take note, passage of the bill. The question now is, class, can you question the propriety in issuing presidential certification? Is it a justiciable question or a political question? Can you, is the issue involved here is at par with issues involved in declaration of martial law, suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, what else? Calling out power of the President. So, kaparehas ba ng level niya pag nag-issue ng certification ng Presidente, kaparehas ba yan ng level ng kung ang Presidente magdideklara ng martial law? Kung ang Presidente isususpend ang privilege ng writ of habeas corpus? Kaparehas lang ba sila? No, they are different. Okay? Mas lighter ang presidential certification. Bakit? Because wala naman daw pong no rights of the citizens that will be affected. It's only to do away procedural what? Procedural requirements in order to expedite the passage of the law. Yan po ang sinasabi sa kaso ng, yan ang sinasabi sa VAT case. Anong sinasabi dito? The sufficiency of the factual basis of the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus or declaration of martial law or the existence of a national emergency justifying the delegation of emergency powers to the President is subject to judicial review. Why? Because basic rights of individuals may be of hazard. But, you encircle but, but the factual basis of presidential certification of bill, which involve doing away with procedural requirements designed to ensure that the bills are duly considered by members of Congress, certainly should elicit a different standard of review. Not so much as compared to those other powers which the President can do. So take note of this case, the VAT case. Yeah? So except when the President certifies the necessity of his emergency because it has to meet public calamity or emergency. Section 27, number 1. This is very important. Why? This is very important because it also provides to us instances where or how a bill becomes a law. So normally, a bill becomes a law when the President approves it. And what is the manifestation that the President has approved it? He signs it. Okay. So that will become a law. But is it already effective? That is another story. That is another story. Section 27 also is so important. Why? Because it also provides the veto power of the President. You know, the President has what? The veto power of the President is of two kinds. First, we have the general veto power of the President. And second, we have the line or item veto power of the President. So the first paragraph has something to do with the general veto power of the President. The second paragraph or the number 2 provision of Section 27 has something to do with the item veto or the line veto power of the President. Okay. This is also a what? This is also in consonance with the principle of checks and balances. This is a way also where the president could check abuses in abuse of legislative power. Okay, let's go on. Otherwise, he shall veto it and return the same with his objections to the House where it originated. Ano pong sinasabi dito? If the President approves it, he shall sign it. Sino yung it? The law. Okay? Otherwise, he shall veto it, the law, and send it to the House where it originated. So if we will try to observe, the it there is the law. So meaning to say, if the President would want to exercise his veto power, the general rule is even he only has some questions, some objections to some provisions, pirama lang ang provision, nakabo niya, the rule is, or the general rule is, he has to veto the entire bill and send it back to the House where it originated. So kung nanggaling po yan sa Senado, kahit dumaan na yan sa House of Representatives, ibabalik yan sa Senado. Kung galing yan sa House of Representatives, kahit dumaan na sa Senado, ibabalik po yan sa House of Representatives. For purposes of what? For purposes of reconsideration. Yeah. Okay. So, klaro po yan, nakalagay dyan it. So, the entire bill should be vetoed entirely. That has something to do with the general veto power of the President. And I would like to emphasize, this is applicable to any bill. Kahit po anong klaseng bill. Kahit po anong klaseng bill. Oh, sige. So the first instance where a bill becomes a law when the President signs it. So alamin naman po natin ano yung ikalawang instance where the bill becomes a law, Okay. Together with the law, supposing if the President exercises veto power, together with the law is his veto message. Ano po yung veto message ng President? Yun po yung mga objections niya. Doon sa objections, oppositions, comments doon sa law, doon sa bill, and the reasons in vetoing the same. Okay? Papadala po yan saan? Doon sa House where it originated. And once the President has vetoed the same, will that become a law? Yes or no? Will that become a law? As a general rule, it will not become a law. Yeah? It will not become a law. It will only become a law if what? Ito na. If after such reconsideration, 2/3 of all the members of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall send it together with the objections to the other House. Take note. So this is also called legislative veto. When the veto of the President is overridden by the legislative department by a vote of 2/3, take note, the same shall be considered a law. So binalik niya sa House of Representatives. Sabi ng House of Representatives, no, we consider this. Nagbrutuhan, 2/3. Nakuha. Will that already become a law? Anyway, 2/3 has been obtained. Will that already become a law? Yes or no? No. After obtaining the required number of votes, it will be sent to the other House. And again, same number of votes should be obtained. And if the same number of votes is obtained, take note, that will become a law even without the signature of the President. May tanong pa nga, kung halimbawa, two-thirds na kuha parehas, ibabalik ba yan sa Presidente para permahan ulit ng Presidente? No! Okay? After the voting, that will become a law. That is the second instance where a bill becomes a law. Ano yung third instance na dapat nga number 1? If the President did not sign it, but did not also exercise his veto power. Labot ko. Tiranganing aldaw, igwala ang Presidente to do it. The President is given 1 month. 1 month. Is that an accurate statement? Hindi po. Because ang 1 month, may 31. Kaya you have to be very careful. You are given 10 days within which to file it. Ano? Pag sinabing 10 days within which to file it, will you include Saturday and Sunday in the counting? You are given 10 days within which to file it. Will you include Saturday and Sunday and holiday in the counting? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, you include. And the Saturday, Sunday, or holiday will only benefit you if the last day falls on a Saturday, falls on a Sunday, or falls on a holiday. In which case, the last day would be the next working day. Pero, you are given 5 working days to do that. Will you include Saturday and Sunday? No. Will you include holidays? No. Okay? 5 working days. So you have to be very careful, especially in the period given to you. Kung walang nakalagay dyan, you include Saturday and Sunday. So the President is given 30 days within which to exercise his veto power. If the President would not do that within that period, wala na po tayo ngayong tinatawag na packet veto. Noon meron. Pag ayaw ng Presidente, hindi niya pipirmahan yan. And that will not become a law. We call it packet veto. Okay? But this time, no more. The President is only given a period within which to exercise veto power. If he fails to do that within the period, even without his signature, that bill will become a law. Take note. So, instance where a bill becomes a law without the signature of the President. Ano pa? How does a bill become a law? Ano pa? Na walang signature ang President, ano pa? A bill calling for special election to fill vacancies in the offices of the President and Vice President. After the third reading, that will become a law. Right now. Yeah? So walang President, walang Vice President. Who will be the acting President, the Senate President? But under the Constitution, they are required at 10 o'clock in the morning following, they have to what? They have to convene and enact a law calling for a special election. During the third and final reading, that will become a law even without the signature of the President, because that is what the Constitution provides. So that's another instance. Or another instance is what? A bill. A bill, revoking the what? The what? The emergency powers granted to the President. So that could also be. Although hindi nga kailangan ng bill, ang kailangan lang dyan is a mere resolution. Pero supposing Congress has decided to enact law, revoking now the emergency powers granted to the President, so that will become a law even without the signature of the President. So take note. So that is the general veto power. The President shall communicate his veto of any bill to the House where it originated within 30 days after the date of receipt. O ito naman, after the date of receipt. What does it mean? O ito naman, ang alam niyo. You are given 10 days to file from receipt thereof. Pag sinabing from receipt thereof, will you be counting the date of receipt? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, yes. Pero dito nakalagay, after receipt. So you will not be counting the date when it was received. After receipt thereof, otherwise, it shall become a law. So civil case, baga, anong sinasabi? You are given 15 days after service of summons. So when we say after service of summons, then mo na i-include yung date of receipt. You, after, the day after the receipt. So the first one is the so-called the general veto power of the president applicable to any kind of bill. The second one is the line veto or item veto power of the president. Again, when the president exercises veto power, what's the remedy? Reconsider it. Congress may reconsider it. Do not go to the Supreme Court and question the constitutionality of that particular law. Yeah. Possible ba maging law? Hindi naman, Hindi siya pwedeng maging law because tig-veto nga ng president. So the only remedy is what? The only remedy is to reconsider it. Possible pala yan sa line veto. Because sa line veto, pwede maging law ang isang bill. Because ang tig-veto lang naman ng president, yung item, tapos pinirmahan niya. So that will become a law already. Despite the vetoing made by the president. Okay, check natin. The president shall have the power to veto any particular item or items in the appropriation, revenue, or tariff bill. If you will try to observe, these are the kinds of bills that should originate exclusively in the House of Representatives. Yeah? So, if you be asked in the bar examination, may the president exercise his line veto or item veto power in to those bills that should originate exclusively in the House of Representatives. May the president exercise his line veto or item veto power to those bills which should originate exclusively in the House of Representatives. Yes or no? Not all. Not all. Because pag sinabing bills that should originate exclusively in the House of Representatives, ano yon? Appropriation, revenue, tariff, bills of local application, private bills, and bills increasing public debt. But as regards the line veto or item veto power of the President, this is only limited to what? Appropriation as well as revenue bills. Appropriation and revenue bills. Where they could what? The President, pwede niyang tanggalin, yung item. Di ba? Yung purpose, tapos yung amount. Can the President remove that? Yes or no? Yes, the President can remove that in consonance with his line veto or item veto power. Pero may problema dito sa kaso ni Macaraig. Sa kaso ni Gonzales versus Macaraig. Why? Because that's why I asked you to read that. Because what is vetoed here is actually not an item. What is vetoed here is what? Is a provision. Take note. And that provision does not relate to any particular appropriation in the general appropriation law. Can the President do that? Sino po ang nagbasa ng kaso ni Gonzales versus Macaraig? Anybody? Gonzales versus Macaraig. I asked you to read that, right? Right? No answer. So, to a man courting a woman, no answer could mean yes. Anybody, Gonzales versus Macaraig. Or even if you did not read the full text of the case, maiintindihan nyo because that can also be found in your book. It's there in your book. Anybody? Yes. Miss? Mr. Mojo. At least, will you give us at least a little bit of fact? Ano da ayan? Especially what is that? Nariyan po ba makaraig? Can that be found in your book? Di ba nariyan po yun? Asa na yung kaso na makaraig? Anybody? The case of makaraig. Anybody? Anybody? Sige, you go on, you continue. Is it there? Makaraig? Nariyan ba yan? Gonzales versus Makaraig. Nariyan yan. What is vetoed is the what? The Section 55 of the General Appropriation Act of 1990. Can that be found in the book? Is it there in the book? Anybody who could give us? So there are two general appropriation laws involved here. The 1989 General Appropriation Law, General Appropriation Bill, and the 1990 General Appropriation Bill. Because they provided with a similar provision. And what is that? Hmm. Ano yun? Anybody, anyway that can be found in the book, anybody who could give us. Because it's very small. I must admit I could not read it. So please help me. Section 55 of the 1989 and the 1990 General Appropriations Bill. It can be found in your book. Is it there in the book? Kuya o kuya dyan, Usisay po ang pwede dyan. Miss Bonafe. Is that an assignment? Oh my God, I could still very well recall last Monday, I asked you to read the case of Gonzales versus Macaray. I could still recall it. Based on my fading memory, I could still recall it. Tolentino also versus Secretary of Finance. In fact, I have mentioned last time that the Gonzales there is Neptali Gonzales, di ba? Sige, anybody, sige daw. Yes, Ms. Bonafe.
Together with 22 other senators, Section 55 of the 1988
So Gonzales is a senator, the Senate president, together with some senators, went to the Supreme Court questioning the constitutionality of section
Section 55 of the 1989 Appropriations Bill. And
there was a section 55 in the 1989 and the 1990 Appropriations Bill. Okay? Yeah.
16 of the 1990.
Yes, okay. What did the president do with that?
There were actually four objections coming from the senator.
As regards sections, sige.
The first one was the president's line veto power as regards appropriation being limited to items.
Yes.
Not power provision.
Yes.
Therefore, she exceeded her authority to section 55 and of the 89
Okay. Basahin po natin ang section 55 if really it refers to a particular item in the general appropriation. Basahin po natin what is section 55. Oo, yung katabi mo, before you continue, yung katabi mo, section 55, will you read it? Listen na. Nakuha na ba? Sino nakakuha na? Yes, Mr. Villaflor. What section 55? What is section 55?
Prohibition against the regulation of fees, recommended appropriation, approved, and or reduced by Congress. No item of appropriation recommended by the President in the budget submitted to Congress pursuant to Article 7, Section 20 of the Constitution, which has been approved or revoked in this act, shall be restored or increased by the use of appropriations authorized for other purposes and recommendations. An item of appropriation for any purpose recommended by the President in the budget shall be deemed to have been approved by Congress with no corresponding appropriation for the specific
Okay.
purpose provided.
The question now is this considered an item? Is this considered an item in the appropriation law? Is this considered an item? Yes or no? Oh. That was clarified also in the case of what? In the same case. Okay? Ano ang item daw na sinasabi? Ano daw ang item? What is an item? Is it there in your book? Yes, it's there in your book. Anybody? O sige, you go on. Miss Bonafé. So that's not an item, but that is actually a provision, and that was vetoed by the President. Okay. So the President has exceeded his line veto power because sabi na, when we say line veto power or item veto power, this can only be exercised by the President to a particular item only in the general appropriation bill. Purpose, yung amount, tanggalin niya. But not a particular provision. Okay. What else?
And the second is that the President objects to the provision of an appropriation bill, she cannot exercise the item veto power, but should veto the entire bill.
Okay.
Third, the item
Ano yung issue? Second issue?
when the President objects to a provision of an appropriation bill, she cannot exercise her item or line veto power, but her general veto power, which is the entirety of the
Okay. Because pag sinabing item, that is only limited to item. Okay. Kaya sabi ko baga sa inyo, ang general veto power is applicable kahit sa appropriation law, applicable yun. In all kinds of law. Although meron pa siyang added power sa appropriation sa kasataris na pwede siyang mag-exercise ng item or line veto. Okay. What else? Okay. Anyway, yung first issue ang pinaka-importante. So, did the President gravely abuse his discretion in vetoing or in exercising his item veto power in order to veto a particular provision? Abuse ba on the part of the President? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay, anong sinasabi sa ating jurisprudence? Explicit in the requirement that a provision in the appropriation bill should relate specifically to some particular appropriation therein. The challenge provisions fall short of this requirement. Firstly, the vetoed provisions do not relate to any particular or distinctive appropriation. It's a general provision. Ano? They apply generally to all items, take note, this approved or reduced by Congress in the appropriation bill. Secondly, the disapproved or reduced items are nowhere to be found on the face of the bill. Okay? To discover them, resort will have to be made to the original recommendations made by the President and to the source indicated by petitioners. Thirdly, the vetoed sections are more of an expression of congressional policy, in respect of augmentation from savings rather than a budgetary appropriation. Okay? So if that's the case, although labeled as provisions, they are actually inappropriate provisions, therefore should be treated as items so that the President could exercise, for purposes of exercising the line veto or item veto power of the President. So take note, kung inappropriate provision siya, pasok siya doon sa line veto or item veto power ng President. So take note. And is it okay for members of Congress to go to the Supreme Court and question the constitutionality of the law? What should have been the remedy? The remedy should have been what? Legislative veto. I-veto nila. If they don't like the veto of the President, they could always veto it. So if I am not mistaken, that was also the what? That was also the pronouncement in that case of Gonzales versus Macarena. Okay? So if the same is considered inappropriate provision, inappropriate in the sense that what? That it does not relate specifically to any particular appropriation in the general appropriation bill. The same can be vetoed by the President in the exercise of his item or line veto power. I want you to read the full text of the case of Gonzales versus Macarena because that is still a very controlling jurisprudence for purposes of your bar examination. So take note. This also highlights the line veto or the item veto power of the President. Anyway, it can be found in your book. And also the reasons made by the President why he had vetoed this particular provision. Let's proceed. Now you are very much again familiar or aware of the recent Senate hearing as regards the pork barrel scandal. Hindi, scandal. Scam. Pork barrel scam. The question now is it within the authority of Congress or any of its committees to conduct inquiry? Yes or no? Yes or no? Can they investigate? Class, investigation actually is what? Investigation actually is an executive function, di ba? And should be given to the executive department. That is why the question now is, can they gather data? Can they gather information? And in so gathering, can they conduct inquiry? Yes or no? Is it constitutionally recognized? Yes or no? The answer is yes. We have the provision of Section 21 and the provision of Section 22 of Article 6. Section 21 and Section 22, although has something to do with the power of Congress to what? To conduct inquiry, but they should not be treated similarly or should not be considered or can be used interchangeably. Section 21 has something to do with what? Power of inquiry. This is essential and appropriate auxiliary power to legislation because it is necessary that they should gather data, they should gather information, they should conduct investigation, they should conduct research, but only for purposes of aiding them, but only for purposes of helping them, in order to what? In their lawmaking power. Okay? But also, power to inquire also includes the power to punish a person in contempt. Okay? So let's try to discuss section 21. The Senate or the House of Representatives or any of its respective committees may conduct inquiry. But what is the purpose of that inquiry? In aid of legislation. Is it required that there is a pending legislation? Or could it be some future legislation? It could be pending or it could be future legislation. In accordance with its duly published rules and procedure. As regards the procedure on how to conduct its proceedings, who can determine? It's the what? It's the Congress that can determine, or it's the committee. Okay? Pero it is a requirement that the rules of procedure must be what? Must be duly published, and the rights of persons appearing in or affected by such inquiries shall be respected. Precisely the reason why I ask you to read the case of Neri versus Seneng. Did I give you that? Did I ask you to read the case of Neri versus the Senate? Yes or no? Yes or no? And also, if I am not mistaken, I ask you also to read the case of Senate of the Philippines versus Ermita et al. That has something to do with the issuance of Executive Order 464. And if I am not mistaken, I just forgot to give you the case of General Gudani and General Balutan. When despite the order from the Chief of Staff, sino ang Chief of Staff noon? Si Generoso Senga. Do you know Generoso Senga? The former Chief of Staff, there was already a directive from the President that they should not appear. Because if I am not mistaken, that also has something to do with the hearing on the Hilo Garci controversy. But despite the prohibition or the order of the Commander-in-Chief, they still appeared before the committee of the Senate and testified. According to them, that is just a mere exercise of our freedom of expression. The case was filed before the court, the Supreme Court. The question now is, can they be sanctioned by the Commander-in-Chief for refusing to abide or to comply to the order of their Commander-in-Chief? Yes or no? Can we consider it an insubordination? Yes or no? The Supreme Court said yes. That is considered insubordination, so they can be what? They can be tried before the military tribunal. But as to whether or not they could appear in the exercise of their freedom of expression, that is another story. Because the only issue that was resolved in that case is, can they be sanctioned administratively, especially by the military court? Yes or no? Answer yes, because that is a case for insubordination. So how about the case of Executive Order 464? If I am not mistaken, there was also an inquiry that has something to do with the Hilo Garci, if I am not mistaken. So the President has issued Executive Order 464, saying that what? Saying that those named officials and other offices which the President may determine before appearing in any congressional inquiry, before appearing in any congressional hearings, should ask permission from the President, should ask presidential consent or presidential authorization before they could appear. So it was questioned before the Supreme Court, saying that what? Saying that it is considered unconstitutional. Okay? That's why we have the case of what? That's why we have that case of Senate of the Philippines versus Ermita. The question now is Executive Order 464 unconstitutional? The Supreme Court partially declared Executive Order 464 as unconstitutional. The provision as regards claim of executive privilege, take note, is considered constitutional. But as regards the provision specifically naming those officers prohibited from appearing without presidential consent or presidential authorization, that was declared what? That was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Okay? Yeah. That was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Okay? What time is it? Dahil pa man. Dahil pa. 5 minutes pa. Then, we have the case of Romulo Neri. We have the NBN CTE hearing, where Romulo Neri was invited to testify in order to give information relative to the NBN CTE transaction. Did he appear? Yes or no? He appeared. He appeared. And he was grilled for 11 hours, if I am not mistaken. Take note, the word is grilled. Grilled. Barbecued. For 11 hours. Take note. And he was excused. But the second time, he was again invited for the second time. Sabi ni Neri, as much as I want to appear, but let me know what are the questions that you will be asking. Because to my knowledge, I have already given everything. Diba? So may I know, please. He even sent what? Letter to the Senate, requesting as to what are the possible questions or queries that will still be asked from him. But unfortunately, he received nothing. That's why he did not anymore appear. And instead, he went to the Supreme Court. I don't know. He did not anymore appear. That is why Congress or the Senate Committee on Public Accountability, if I am mistaken, has cited him in legislative contempt and has issued a warrant for his arrest. Instead of surrendering, he went to the Supreme Court, questioning the what? Questioning the proprietary of the what? Of the issuance of the warrant of arrest. Questioning his citation for contempt. Did he prevail? Yes or no? Yes. The Supreme Court declared that the Senate has committed grave abuse of discretion in citing Romulo Neri in legislative contempt. Why? Iyan po ang aalamin nyo. Basahin nyo rin, Basahin nyo yung kaso ni Senate versus Ermita. Please, that is a very important case. That's a very important case. That's a landmark case. So I am expecting that each and every one of you will read that particular case. We will continue when? We will continue Monday.